Welcome, everyone, to our ongoing regular weekday morning podcasts on Kabbalah for Heretics with me, your heretic in chief, Yakov, Leib, HaKohain. We have been, as we've been for the past 25 or 30 years, going through the Zohar volume by volume, cover to cover, page by page. We've, as you probably know by now, we've completed volumes 1, 2, and 3 in that way over all these years, and we are rapidly coming to the conclusion of volume 4, which we will then follow with the final volume 5. Don't hold breath. It's going to be some time. We go slowly. Before we begin, I just want to emphasize something that I mention quite frequently. The Zohar is not a, quote, religious, unquote, work, let alone a work of Judaism. It comes from the Jewish psyche, but not from the Jewish religion. It is therefore applicable to all advanced spiritual seekers. It's recondite, it's profound, it's deep, but it isn't Jewish. It's of no religion. It is a surgical exploration of the mind of God and the presence of God and the reality of God in relationship to man. And I don't care how many august rabbis you hear on the internet preaching, and that's what they're doing, preaching Judaism from the Zohar. They are wrong. That is not what it's intended to be. Please, God, we come closer. Please, God. Let's get back then to where we left off in Parsha Shemini of Leviticus. As they were going along, the time for prayer arrived. So they dismounted and said their prayers. While they were praying, now listen, a serpent wound itself round the legs of the ass of Rabbi Pinchas, which thereupon uttered 2 cries. When they had finished praying, Rabbi Pinchas said, I can understand my animal being in pain, because earlier in the day, when I was meditating on the Torah, it took me through some filth. While I was meditating on the Torah took me through some filth. Listen, this is not just a minor statement. Studying the Torah can and does bring us through some dark, sinful, dirty aspects. So that entering the Torah is to enter both sides of God. Not just the loving, good, recondite, holy side of God. It is to also enter the unholiness of God, because God is unholy. Remember, God is perfect. To be perfect, you must be imperfect as well. So here Rabbi Pinchas is commiserating with his ass. And by the way, the ass is being featured in the readings thus far of the Zohar for crying out twice, because the serpent wound itself around its leg. He's commiserating with him. Hence, now it is being hurt. Now listen to that. Try to put it together. Don't just look at it and go, and move on. Listen to the whole thing together. Rabbi Pinchas said, I can understand my animal being in pain because earlier today, while I was meditating on the Torah, it took me through some filth. Hence now it is being hurt. Now I realize the it in this phrase can mean either the ass or the Torah. Don't think that escapes me. And of course, the first thing to think of when one does is the ass took me through some filth, and now it is being hurt. It isn't just the Torah through which they went through filth. It was the ass which also took him through some filth. Thus, there is filth to be gone through in the Torah. But notice it says, hence now it is being hurt. It wandered through filth earlier in the day, but only now is being hurt by the filth through which it took Rabbi Pinchas. You cannot go through filth, even though it is the filth of God, and not be ultimately injured by it. Ultimately. I'm going to take a leap and say the left-hand path of God, and there is a left-hand path of Kabbalah, is just such a path. It takes us through filth, and we can be and will be touched and hurt by it, unless, it doesn't say this here in the Zohar, but it does elsewhere, we have protected ourselves against it. How do we protect ourselves against the filth that we can be brought through in God? Even by the holy ass. How do we protect ourselves? By being conscious of it. We cannot protect ourselves against something we are not conscious of. By accepting it. Oh, I know that. I know that. Yet, if I were to say there is filth in the Torah, you would be offended. You say you know it when I talk about it here, because you think you know every goddamn thing. Well, you don't know it. Not in the way I'm saying it. Not in the way I'm bringing it into awareness here, by the Holy Spirit, speaking from the filth of the Torah. As they stood up, they saw a snake coiled around its legs, whereupon Rabbi Pinchas said, "Snake, go and wind yourself round your own hole." At this the snake dissolved and fell into pieces. Man has the power to exorcise and fragment evil. It is not that evil always has sway over man. It does have sway over man when man is unconscious of it, when man denies its presence. I actually had someone who is quite intellectually smart say to me, "Do you really believe in evil?" As if, my God, are you still back there? Everybody knows there is no evil. That person is so wide open to evil, I cannot begin to tell you. Wide open to it, without any resources against it. Yes, I'm very conscious of evil. I'm very conscious of when I enter into it. And it does erupt, and I am punished by it. but not as badly as I could be. And I am being punished by it with consciousness. Woe to the person who is being punished by evil, who is not conscious of the source of his punishment, who denies it, who pushes it away. I'm not saying you have to grab hold of it. Just acknowledge it. Really think of it. Millions and millions of people, mostly on the internet, deny the existence of evil. Everything is good. Everything is wonderful. As long as we're aware of it, they say. No, everything is not all good. Everything is not all wonderful. Some of it is evil. Some of it is filth. God himself. And you have no protection against it if you deny it. As they stood up, they saw another snake coiled around the ass's legs. Let's back up for a moment. What is this ass? Well, first of all, it's the only animal in the entire Torah that speaks. Balaam's ass speaks to Balaam. There are other references to the ass as a very arcane animal. Not least of all, and I'm sure all of you have already thought of this, the ass upon which Jesus rode into Jerusalem. That's the ass being alluded to here. Even the Messiah is vexed by evil. Even the Messiah is not immune to evil. But what does Rabbi Pinchas do? He says, snake, go and wind yourself around your own hole, unquote. He commands the snake to disappear. You cannot command something to disappear that you don't believe is standing in front of you. There has to be a tete-a-tete relationship between you and that which you are commanding to disappear. It must know and acknowledge you, just as you must know and acknowledge it. You must be known by evil as well as knowing evil in order to exercise power over evil. It's not sufficient that you recognize evil. It must know you. That's why it's so often spoken of, to descend in order to ascend. To descend in order to ascend. You cannot ascend from something you have not descended into. And this knowledge of evil must be firsthand, entered into with kavanah, with intention, for the intention of sending it to its own place, with the intention of breaking it up and making it disappear. That is what Sabbatai Zevi did when he entered into Islam. It is said that that was the maw of Satan. And why did he enter into it? To break it up, to release the holy sparks that are in it. But he could not do that unless he acknowledged it. And unless he became a part of it. And it became a part of him. Rabbi Pinchas said, snake, go and wind yourself around your own hole, the Ouroboros. I'm sure all of you know about the Ouroboros. This is a very clear reference to that archetypal imagery. Said Rabbi Eliezer, is God so particular with the righteous? He replied, verily he is, and he takes note of all their errors and desires to raise their holiness to a still higher level. This ass has been tormented because it did not guard my holiness, because it did not acknowledge this evil, this filth, and therefore was oblivious. This ass has been tormented because it did not guard my holiness. And this snake was a divine messenger. Let that sink in. This serpent, this Nachash, the king of evil, was a divine messenger. Even evil can and often be, and often is, a divine messenger. Evil comes often to teach us good. I tell you, my 2.5 months in the hospital and my convalescence thereafter, which I'm still in, is an example of that. I was not being punished by God. The serpent of what was afflicting me was not a punishment. It was a divine messenger. And believe me, I listened. We'll continue with this tomorrow morning. In the meantime, this morning, I'll stop here and we'll ask the one or two assistants who are always here every morning to help me do the recording. Do you have any comments or questions? Raise your hand. Yeshai, go ahead. You can go ahead, Tommy, if you're finished typing your comment. Go right ahead and print it. Go ahead. Tommy, I really appreciate how you elucidated the left-hand path as it manifests in the Zohar, and how you have presented the material in a way that is not shackled by religion. God bless you, Tommy. Thank you. Thank you for seeing that and for mentioning it. That's very appropriate for the listening audience to hear. Thank you, Tommy. Yeshai, go ahead. Thank you, Tommy. I know despise is a big word, but I despise all religion, every goddamn one of them. Judaism, Christianity, Islam, them all. I despise them all. Not the sources of them. Not the voice of God speaking through the sources of religion, but the religions themselves which pervert, insult the sources from which they come. Yeshai, extremely powerful evil comes often to teach us good. There you are. You put your finger right on the button. We must be consciously entering evil to transform it into good in God. But if it is denied, nothing can be done about it. That is excellent, fantastic. Thank you. Baruch Hashem, such wonderful comments. And I hope the listening audience is benefiting from them. I'm sure if they're listening, they are. All right, now let's end this morning's podcast, as I do every morning, by reciting the Kaddish, the ritual prayer for the dead, in honor of the memory of our departed, beloved friend and fellow Kohen, Leonard Cohen. Yiskadal v'yiskadal shmei rabo, bal modi v'achir sevi amlech malchusei, v'chayachona v'yemechona v'chayi d'chol beis Yisrael, bagala uvizman kore v'imnu amen. Yehi shmei rabo mevarach le'elam omel maya. Yisparach v'yishtabach v'yispar v'yisamam, V'yisnasei v'yisav v'yisalei v'yisalal. Shmei d'kutsho b'richu. Le'elam mincha b'irchasa v'shirasa t'shvachasa. V'nechemasa dam v'amo v'imru amen. Yehi shlomo rabba min shemaya. V'chayinu aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramov. Hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. And let everyone say amen. And that concludes our podcast morning. God willing, I'll see the two of you and the entire listening audience tomorrow morning. In the meantime, Yivarechecha Adonai.